Xili this time. Is it a surprise?
It's not a surprise. Since the Xili, Qinghai-Xili, it is a unique place and provide habitat and the biological process for Tibetan antelope. This the features, the population is significant values only found in these places.
I remember more than a decade ago, traveling in Xili, trying to cover some of the stories related to the protection of Tibetan antelopes. At the time, the poaching of Tibetan antelopes was a great challenge for the local community because the poverty there, people want to make a few bucks, and of course, the fur of the Tibetan antelope is some of the things of the best luxury, as they say, in the international market. But what about the situation now?
The situation is getting better. The population in the early 20th century is about a million. Due to the poaching for the satush, the valuable fur of Tibetan antelope,
That's right.
then the trade to the Western countries, to Europe and America, and caused a lot of problem of poaching. So the population from about 1 million down to less than 50,000. So that's it's enormously
No
declined
consumption,
population.
no poaching, as we were saying at the time, more than 10 years ago. Professor Qi, I'm sure you remember that period very well.
Of course I do. Right. Now I think things have changed a lot. Just look at the sharks, right? And also recently the ivory. China joined this international agreement, international conventions, on protecting the wildlife. So the overall regulation as well as enforcement of this regulation has really enhanced in the last decade.
Having said that, though, even though the poaching has been banned and did come to an end because many of the local farmers have been organized to be members of the team against the poaching. They're being paid by the government, and therefore they have a way of making a living. And at the same time, it's about protecting Tibetan antelopes rather than killing them. So here's the thing, what about tourism? I mean, as a result of the World Cultural Heritage Sites or natural sites, you would definitely get more eyeballs here in China and all over the world. Professor Qi, that has always been a dilemma.
That's always been a dilemma for this natural and cultural heritage site. On the one hand, you want to enhance the publicity and get the world to know the value of the sites. And by doing so, you publicize the site, then you draw a lot of attention, draw a lot of interest from the tourism. That is a dilemma, has been going on in many different places.
Right.
So I think the tourists do have the responsibility. What you just mentioned is a really interesting case, which is the local residents. They are all now organized or self-organized to protect the wildlife, like the Tibetan antelope. I think we also should promote a culture for the tourists,
right,
to organize themselves or to organize them to actually to become a positive force, right, for conservation, protecting the wildlife.
People are looking forward to you, Professor Qi, going there and probably do some of these organizations as tourists yourself. Putting that joke aside, Mr. Zhu, what about that? I mean, do you have ways, do you have great case studies in China? Such a dramatically changing society, commercialization in this economy is extremely high. People want to make bucks, but is there successful examples about better protection of the natural sites as a result of being listed, and beautiful balance between tourism, preservation?
Yeah, AOCN globally provide the technical guideline to promote sustainable tourism. The attract tourists is one of the advantage, or is the how to
we all know that, but
manage.
The question is, do we have good examples? What is the good example, if we have some?
Yeah, for example, in Sichuan, in Zharu being in since later, like middle, like 2005, 2006, to try to invite international experts to help introduce the eco-tourism concept and to design the route, and tourists can visit this valley near the Jiuzhaigou Valley. It's called the Zharu.
And what about that? What are some of the specific protections being done? And why tourists want to buy into some of the measures designed by these preservation teams?
First, the difference is limited of the number of visitors. It's not like the mass tourism.
That's a big debate.
Yeah.
You sell more tickets, you got more money, but you want to limit the numbers of the tickets. That, of course, means less income. Will the local community be able to accept that?
Actually, like the ecotourism, normally they visit one side, they stay longer time. So the mass tourism only like go inside and half day, 1 day, then they left. But for the ecotourism, normally they can stay a week and even longer. So they also pay a lot, not for the entrance, only for the entrance ticket, but they pay for the stay, for the hotel, and so that the also can generate income for the local community.
But that sounds even more dangerous, because in Hoh Xil you don't have that many hotels. If you are saying they're staying longer, they are going to stay in the hotels, they're going inside this inland area of Hoh Xil, that probably even more pressure for the nature surroundings over there.
Yeah, that's true. So for the critical habitat, very important corridors, we have to limit it of the visitors. And for the area, some area, it's a no-go area. It's forbidden for tourism development. So normally to have zoning within the protected area is not everywhere open for tourism development.
Have you ever seen some good examples, successful examples?
Well, I see for the giant panda, for example, this is 10 years ago, we were very worried, but now I think now we're coming to a point you consider to delist.
It's not endangered anymore.
That's right. So there are some examples, for the natural site for wildlife conservation, and there are some examples for the cultural side of it. And but the cultural side is probably even harder because of the cultural side, and it is a cultural attraction, then it would be really difficult. I think one thing I just want to mention is the zoning of the so-called major functional zones. This is a major policy of by the central government.
Right. And
the central government should subsidize the areas that set aside for protection purposes. I think that's we need to consider the livelihood of the local people, and also we recognize the value of this. It's not just to be preserved by the local people. It's a responsibility of the nation.
Interesting point over there. China so far has already got quite a number of UNESCO cultural and natural sites. Look at the 5 countries with the most UNESCO World Heritage Sites on our screen right now. The list shows Italy ranks the first with 53, followed by China 52, Spain 45, France 42, and Germany 41. So China certainly has been topping that list more and more. But Mr. Zhu, here's come a bigger question. The reason why the local government and the community support the bidding for being included in the UNESCO cultural or the natural heritage sites is because it's likely to bring more benefits to their real lives. But then the preservation of it seemed to also reduce some of their economic income possibilities. So how should we, in a way, communicate with the local community? It's a big issue over the years, Mr. Zhu.
I think we are seeking the win-win solutions. Since China rich natural like biodiversity, and also have very long history, very rich culture. So that's China. Hopefully, in the near future, will become the largest and the first place of culture and nature heritage site
Well,
in
that's
the
one
world.
thing, but you haven't
Yeah.
answered my question. My question is how to communicate with the local community about
Mm-hmm.
the importance of protection and preservation. You are doing some of the specific standards for the protection. So I'm sure you have been working with those people who have to do these kind of communication. What are some of the secrets for success?
Okay. So
Secrets, real secrets for success.
so any success of conservation have to meet the local community's need and get their support. So definitely the local community will benefit from the protection or conservation efforts. So that's we need to analysis, understand what their need, what their demand,
Yeah.
and what their interest. So also protect the traditional culture and the way of living, the lifestyle.
Is it about development stage? I mean, if you look at Kakashiri, people talk about the difficulties of preservation because tourists want to come in and you want to see them coming from all over the world, in fact. But you know, when it comes to Kulangsu Island in Xiamen, Fujian province, people will say, well, it's already a tourist site, right? People go there, it is something people celebrate, and it's likely to be also the venue for the BRICS summit later this year in China. So is it about development stage, or is it about the educational level for people to understand about their relations with the nature and what to celebrate and what to protect?
Well, there is a wide spectrum of size. I appreciate your top 5 list, but they're so hard to compare from one side to another,
That's right.
Paris, the entire city of Paris, one site. The Kakashiri, we're talking about 45,000 square kilometers.
That's right,
It's
beautiful.
a very big,
Beautiful area.
Kulangsu, very much a tourist site now. With a lot of people, very high density of population. With Kakashiri, it's on the other extreme. I think cultivate the kind of communication and also education of the local people, and also of the people who intended to come over to see the places. That kind of education is really needed. I think right now you mentioned the development stage.
Yeah.
We have come to this stage, and this awareness is very important, and the awareness is really there now. And we need to have a better communication and make sure all the stakeholders who can understand their responsibilities for taking care of these sites.
It is important that everybody understand the message of sustainability of that place.
Exactly.
It's going to be in the interest of everyone, including themselves. Then things are going to be resolved.
Look,
As
this
easy as a piece of
very
cake.
concept of shared community, of common destination, right? That's the whole point.